In this example, this is a picture that was taken in Slovenia, and I actually think this picture has a lot of potential, but it's really overexposed. As you can see, that the sun and the sky is totally blown out. It's looking really washed out, and it's the kind of picture that maybe you would just reject it. But I think that we're going to be able to fix this. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to go to is the exposure. I'm just going to bring that down a little bit, down to around -1.07, and reduce the highlights. So that's getting rid of the really highlighted areas. And then go to the shadows, raise the shadows a bit. I think we can actually go a bit lower with the exposure. Yeah. So going down to almost -2, which makes the mountains darker, but then again we can increase the shadows a little bit. So it's already starting to look a lot better. And it's kind of washed out, the colors are washed out, so I'm going to increase the vibrance. And a little bit of saturation. So saturation to +10, vibrance to +25, and down to the HSL sliders, which are a bit further down on the right hand side. And I want to do something with the sky to make it a bit more vivid blue. So increase the individual color on the blue to +20. Go to the Luminance tab on the HSL panel, and I'm going to bring down the luminance. Increase the saturation on yellow and red. And there's some nice greens here in the mountains, so I'm going to increase the saturation on green. I want to focus on this island here. You see the island here? That makes kind of a nice, interesting focal point, but it's a little bit dark. You can't really see it very well. So create a new adjustment brush. And again, it's opened up this panel. Double click on effects to bring all the sliders back to 0. And so this is about the size of the paintbrush I want. Increase the exposure a little bit. Bring up the shadows to around +40. Bring up some clarity and saturation. So let's paint over this and see what happens. As you can see, it's starting to brighten that up nicely. So you can see the white tower there. So starts to get all washed out like this, which is not much good. But if you use a very small amount of exposure, I've just got +0.09 there. That's all you really need, and then use the other sliders like shadows, highlights to introduce other into the adjustment. I'm going to try bring up the clarity a bit more, see what happens. Again, like clarity and dehaze tend to make it a bit darker, so it's to use those in moderation. But it's looking good. Next thing I want to do is move on to this wall on the right, just to bring it out a bit more. So I think some clarity on that will help. New adjustment brush starts. Double click on effect, and I'm going to crank up the clarity. I'm going to change the brush size, make it a bit bigger. And increase the shadows a little bit. And let's just paint over this. So that's brightened up nicely. So that's looking pretty good now. The last couple of things I want to do, I can't do them in Lightroom. I want to get rid of this metal railing at the bottom, and there's a little spot in the sky there, so probably some aberration on the lens or something. So that's easy to fix in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is just quickly right click, edit, choose edit in Photoshop. I have the picture open in Photoshop now. I just want to get rid of this railing here. Go up to the polygon lasso tool, which is up here. Select around the metal railing. Quickly select around here. It gives Photoshop a better option of, it can figure out how to delete things if you have as much as possible of the background, which in this case is the water. So I'm just very roughly and quickly going around here, clicking on this. Then we go back to the beginning of the selection, and the marching ants appear, so that's selected. So we're on the background layer, which is important. It should be on the background layer. So I'm just going to hit the delete key on the keyboard. The content aware box comes up and click on OK. There, the railings have disappeared. Go up to select, deselect, and it's looking pretty good there. That's mostly disappeared. Fix this blemish. There's a blemish here, so I'm just going to go to the patch tool on the menu and just select around that little blob, that blemish, and just drag it up to another bit of sky, and by magic that's disappeared. So just zoom out. It would have been too complicated to get rid of the whole of that railing, so I'm just going to crop it there. Double click. So that's looking pretty good. So to go back into Lightroom, click on the cross there to close this. Save changes, yes. And now I go back into Lightroom. So now we're back in Lightroom. I'm just going to increase the exposure just very slightly to around plus 0.24. And I think this is looking pretty good. So let's compare it to the original picture. And you can see, comparing the two, that the original picture was really almost, you would think it was unusable. It's just completely overexposed, and we've managed to get it to look fairly acceptable and is a nice looking picture. If you like this video, hit the like button below, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.